Hello, my name's Simon and this is my YouTube channel, Technically Simon. I like looking at technical devices like smartphones, tablets, laptops, games machines. I've been around for a while and I've experienced a lot of devices right from the early days with the Palm Pilot and things like that, the Sinclair Spectrum computer and the BBC Micro, and then when the iPhone came along in 2007, I bought an iPhone, and for many years, up until 2020, I was what was termed a Apple fanboy, I guess. I had all Apple devices. So I had iPhones, I had iPads when they came along, I had a MacBook, I also had things like the HomePod, the Apple TV, a real Apple ecosystem. And then around about 2020, pandemic, a little bit bored, I guess, and I changed my mind. I decided I wanted to experience something different. What I'd noticed was in the Android world that there were some interesting takes on smartphones, and device manufacturers like Samsung, maybe not so adventurous as some, but Motorola, LG, several others, they came along with new devices and they started doing, and over the years, the last 5 or 6 years, there've been things like flip phones, there've been things like folding phones, some very adventurous Android devices. So I was all in on the Android ecosystem, and I stopped using a MacBook and I started using a Windows laptop. And then I had a bit of a issue because I started my YouTube channel just over a year ago and I had difficulty doing the editing of the videos, or not difficulty doing it, but it took a long time. There were a lot of false starts, retakes, that kind of thing, partly because I was learning, but also partly because of the Windows PC. And I had a powerful laptop towards the end. It was MSI Creator Studio, or Creator AI Studio, I think it was called. And that device had 64 gigabytes of RAM, had a fast Intel CPU inside it, and it had a dedicated NVIDIA GPU with 8 gigabytes of RAM. And yet it still had difficulty rendering 4K video. I could work in 1080p better, but if I wanted to do 4K, it was a painful process. So I started looking at what other people were using on YouTube, and I realized they were all using MacBooks. So a few months ago, I bit the bullet and I bought myself a MacBook Pro with the M4 Pro CPU inside it, 48 gigabytes of RAM, a beast. It was like night and day. Suddenly, I could render quickly, easily, smoothly, timeline scrubbing, much easier. After I did that, I thought, I haven't used an iPhone for a long time. And obviously some of the apps you have that Apple releases are available on the MacBook and the iPhone and the iPad. I did have an iPad for work, but I didn't have my own personal one. Anyway, long story short, I've been out and I bought one of these. This is the iPhone 17 Pro Max. I've had this one now for just over 2 months. So generally with smartphones, I buy them with my own money. They're not given to me by the manufacturers. I'm not so lucky, I'm not so big a YouTuber to get that sort of benefit. So I buy them with my own money. I like to use them for at least a couple of months before I actually do a video about them, so that I've got over the honeymoon period, the glow of a new device, and I've actually used it for a period of time, day to day. And so my opinion is more, hopefully, what you would feel if you bought and owned one of these devices over the long term. So as I say, iPhone 17 Pro Max. So this is the top of the range iPhone, the largest one they do. It has a A19 Pro Apple chip inside it. That has a 6-core CPU, 2 performance cores and 4 high efficiency cores. And it also has a 6-core GPU inside it. It has a 16-core neural engine, and this is for the hopefully forthcoming Apple Intelligence. So this device has a vapor chamber inside it for cooling if you're playing high resolution games and it might overheat. Not an issue I have myself because I don't tend to use my iPhone for that kind of thing. Battery capacity, it's a 4,832 milliamp hour battery. Now my last smartphone came from the Android world and it actually had a 7,000 milliamp hour battery. So I was thinking maybe this one's going to be not as good battery life as I was used to, but I've actually been pleasantly surprised. Apple quotes 37 hours of video, continuous video play on this, and I know it's only a figure to compare to previous models because nobody's going to sit there and watch video for 37 hours. Well, I don't think so anyway. If you charge it from USB-C with the cable in the bottom, it now supports 40-watt wired charging, which Apple calls fast charging. Obviously, compared to the aforementioned Android phones, some of them support 100, 120 milliamp hour charging, so 3 times faster than this. But it is better than it used to be. And the wireless charging's a bit faster as well. I think it's 25 watts. I'll put it on the screen if it's not that, if it's something different. It supports wireless charging Qi 2.2, the latest standard. So it will work with magnetic wireless chargers. I have one in my car, which I put it on. I've also got one on the bedside table at night, so I tend to use the wireless charger most of the time. I find if I put it on charge overnight, take it off during the day, if I'm not going out during the day, maybe it's the weekend, I don't go out of my car, I will find that by the time I get to the evening, about 7 or 8 o'clock, I'm down to around about 50-55%. So plenty of battery power. And if I'm out during the day and I've got it on the wireless charger in the car for work, you've got loads of power, no worries at all, no issues at all. It has Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 6, 5G obviously for your mobile signal, and it has a second-gen ultra-wideband chip inside it for local communication. Supports dual SIM. Now, because this is the Australian version, it does actually have a physical SIM, which is in the tray on the side here. In America, there's no physical SIM anymore, but in Australia and some other parts of the world, it still has a physical SIM, and you can also put an eSIM inside it, so you can support 2 SIMs at the same time. Just looking around the device, it has ceramic shield on the back and the front, so quite tough. It now has this raised plateau on the back, I think Apple call it. Used to be the camera island, it's now the camera plateau. The advantage of that is when you put it down on a table, it doesn't rock as much as the old one used to. In fact, hardly rocks at all. I keep mine in a case most of the time. I use this, the Torras Case, which I'll mention a bit more in a minute. Also looking around the phone, what we have on the right-hand side, we have our power button at the top. A bit further down, we have a touch capacitive camera button. On the bottom of the device, we have our USB-C charging port and a couple of speakers. And on the left-hand side at the top, we have the action button, and that can be changed. You can choose different things to do with the action button. I've got mine set to silence the phone. So if I'm in a meeting or something, I just quickly press that and it switches everything off, the ringers and things. Underneath that, you've got the volume controls, up and down. Now, I'm quite used to on the Samsung phones and other Android phones, they have the power button and the volume rocker on the same side, on the right-hand side. I actually quite like the way Apple do it because you're not accidentally pressing the power button when you think you're doing volume up or down. Because it's on the other side of the phone, it's obvious. On the top of the phone, there's nothing, just plain edge. It's got obviously microphone and camera in the top here at the front. Talking about the cameras, on the back we have 3 Fusion cameras. So the Fusion cameras, all 3 of them are 48 megapixels. We have a main camera, we have a wide angle, and we have a telephoto camera. Now the telephoto camera supports a 4 times optical zoom, but it also supports an 8 time zoom. I think Apple refers to it as an 8 times optical quality zoom. What it means is instead of using the 48 pixels, they go down to 12 megapixels. So you're using the power of the camera to simulate an 8 times optical zoom. It's not, strictly speaking, an optical zoom, but when you use it, it's a very good zoom. I have to say I'm very impressed with it. We have a flash on the back and we have the depth sensors at the back as well. And on the front, we have an 18 megapixel camera with center stage and autofocus. So center stage means that when you're filming yourself looking into the camera, and if you move around, maybe it's on a stand in front of you, and if you move slightly within the frame will still focus on you in the center. It moves slightly. Obviously, go right out the side, it will lose you, but within certain parameters, it keeps you focused in the center of the camera. And that's quite a neat trick, I think. The one I have here has 512 gigabytes of RAM storage. It's also available with 256 gigabytes, 1 terabyte or 2 terabytes, so plenty of options. Although the 2 terabyte one is very expensive here in this country. It's $3,800. Now this one with the 512 gigabytes in it, This one was $2,199, so $2,200. So pricey device, but like a lot of the top of the range smartphones, in the same ballpark. This one is the deep blue. I like the deep blue. It's quite a nice looking color scheme. It also comes in a color called Cosmic Orange, and that's the one you seem to see in all the advertising and on the YouTube reviews and everything. It's the one Apple features, probably because it's a new color for this model. Having said that, this was released last September, so it's nearly 9 months old now, this model. And if you want a really in-depth technical explanation about everything in it and performance benchmarks, etc., there are dozens and dozens of YouTube videos, as you would expect. The other color available is silver. It's a sort of, looks a bit titanium-ish color. It's quite a nice color, the silver. I was a little bit tempted by that one, but in the end I decided to go for this dark blue. I do like the dark blue color. Size-wise, as I've said, this is a large device. It has a 6.9-inch diagonal screen, and the physical dimensions themselves are 163.4 millimeters tall, 78 millimeters wide, and it's 8.7 millimeters deep. It weighs 231 grams. So similar size and weight to a lot of other top-of-the-range smartphones from people like Samsung, Motorola, LG, Oppo, etc. As I said, it's a 6.9-inch screen. It's called a Super Retina XDR OLED display. It measures 2,868 pixels by 1,320 pixels, which gives us 460 ppi. I'm looking at my notes because, to be honest, I can't remember all this stuff. The refresh rate, it's ProMotion, and it goes from 1 Hz up to 120 Hz dynamically depending on what's on the screen. And it also supports standard nits brightness is 1000 nits, which is quite high. It goes to peak brightness of 1600 nits, unless you're outdoors, and then it can actually go right up to 3000 nits. Now, when they talk about going up to peak brightness and 3000 nits, they're not talking about across the whole display, they're talking about certain areas and things. Because if the whole display went like that, you'd probably burn your retinas out, wouldn't you? But suffice to say, it is very bright, very clear, very easy to read, even outside on a sunny day. And that's quite important where I live here in Western Australia, because we get a lot of sunshine, not anything I'm complaining about. Now, one of the reasons, or one of the things I found when I moved back to the iPhone was a lot of the apps I use are available both on Android and iPhone these days. There isn't that much difference with the apps available. There's one or two that you can only seem to get on an iPhone. Developers tend to develop for the iPhone first because it's generally a larger market for them. The trouble with Android, and it's not a criticism of Android, one of the advantages of Android, if you like, is all the variety of devices. But the trouble is, for a developer, you have to develop software that covers all those different devices and different versions of the Android operating system. Whereas at least with Apple, you've only got to concentrate on the one operating system. And because Apple make both the hardware and the operating system, it tends to be quite tightly integrated and smooth in operation. Now, one of the things I was a bit surprised about when I came back, and it's been 5 or 6 years since I used an iPhone itself, although I've used an iPad, even apps that are made by Google for Android devices, like the Pixel phones, for example, Google Maps, they're actually better on the iPhone. My wife still has an Android phone. She's got one of the Motorola Razr flip phones, last year's model. And when you look at Google Maps on that, alongside Google Maps on the iPhone, it's just a little bit clearer on the iPhone, a bit snappier in use. And just a silly little thing, but we both quite like when we're driving to see what the speed limit is and what speed we're actually doing using the GPS, because the GPS tends to be a bit more accurate than the actual speedometer in your car. On my phone, the iPhone running Google Maps, it clearly shows the speed I'm traveling and the speed limit for the area I'm traveling through. And that is pretty consistent there most of the time. On my wife's Android phone, running Google Maps, nowhere near as consistent. Sometimes it appears, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you'll go down the same road and it's not there. Next day you'll go down that road and it is there. It just seems a little bit less polished than the Google Maps on the iPhone. And that's what I found across several apps. I use UpNote for my note-taking app. And again, the version on the iPhone is just that little bit more polished than the version on Android. Having said that, Android also has a more open ecosystem, so you can sometimes get apps and features on an Android phone that you can't get on an iPhone. When we look at AI, and everyone's talking AI to death, but I actually find AI very useful. I use it frequently, every day. The Apple Intelligence, I haven't used it. I basically haven't used Siri hardly at all, just to look at and see what it's like. But I've installed Google's Gemini app because I'm a pro subscriber for the Gemini app, and I just use that, and it works absolutely fine on the iPhone. We're hoping next week at WWDC that Apple are going to introduce a new version of Siri that is built on top of Gemini, and hopefully that will make for a much smoother and better integrated AI system. I have to say the AI on the Google phones, the Pixel phones, is superb, very good. Anyway, that's my quick look at the Apple iPhone. I must say, I really like this device, and I can't see myself changing back to Android anytime soon. I might still look at Android phones because there's some interesting ones coming down the pipeline. Having said that, maybe in September this year, there might actually be a folding iPhone. It will be very interesting to see how Apple approaches that. I'll just quickly look at the case I use this. I'm not sponsored or anything, so I'm just mentioning it because it's the one I've decided on, having tried a few. But this is made by a company called Torras. It's quite nicely velvet lined inside to protect the device itself. It's a nice, solid, hard-wearing rubber, but it's got texture, a bit of grip. The thing I like most is it has this ring on the back, so that I can put it down on a table if I'm in a coffee shop and I need to be hands-free, or I could do it that way if I'm watching a video or something like that. So I find that quite nice. It also has these aluminium buttons on it that match up with the buttons on the iPhone itself. So when I pop it on the device, like so, I think that goes very well. Now this is the dark blue one, so it's the same color as my actual iPhone. And as you can see, I've themed everything in a similar blue. Little things, please, little minds. Anyway, hope you enjoyed my very quick review of my iPhone 17 Pro Max. Thank you very much.